Hi, and welcome to part 2 of an introduction to Clarifai's portal. This session is all about data curation, which is the process of organizing, cleaning, labeling, and maintaining your data for training and testing models. To get started today, let's click into the app that I've created for this demo. In the last session, we learned how to upload data, so to begin this session, let's quickly refresh our memory by uploading some image files on the data mode page. To get to data mode, you can either click the Add Inputs button here on the right-hand side of the page, or the data mode icon here on the left-hand navigation bar. So I'm just going to upload some inputs quickly by dragging and dropping. And again, we're going to ignore this modal for the time being because we're just focused on uploading inputs. And like we did last time, just to make sure that our inputs upload uninterrupted, we'll open Explorer in another tab. While that data is uploading, you can see that we already have some inputs that have been previously uploaded. Let's give our page a hard refresh to see if our inputs have finished uploading. Okay, and it looks like our inputs uploaded successfully. So data rarely comes to us perfectly labeled and ready to build a model with. We're often faced with a plethora of unorganized data, much like you see here. Thankfully, Explorer has the tools to help us make sense of it all. For today's demo, we're going to label the data you see here with the seasons, using a taxonomy of 3 concepts: autumn, winter, and spring, summer. We've combined spring and summer because they are visually indistinguishable from each other, and autumn and winter are much more visually distinct. But before we can start labeling our images here, we'll first need to add our concepts to the app by clicking on either the Create a Concept button right here, or clicking on the plus sign right here. They both will open the same modal, and this modal will prompt for your custom concept name. You can add as many concepts as you'd like, clicking Done after each submission, and then finally you can click Done to exit the modal. So we'll add our concept names. And click Done. Now those concepts have been added to our app, and we're ready to start labeling. You can apply a label or annotation to an input in a couple of different ways. The first way to label an input is from the page that we're currently on, which is sometimes referred to as grid view. If you're labeling from this grid view, you might want to be able to adjust the size of your thumbnails. You can do that by clicking on the plus or minus buttons right here. You can scroll up and down through all of your inputs to explore your data. They'll be explored in the order in which they were uploaded. Another cool thing is that you can hit the period button to toggle between square and masonry style thumbnails. It's important to take note of this because it isn't obvious, so remember it's the period button on your keyboard. Masonry style will show the full image composition without cropping the side like a square thumbnail does. The square thumbnail layout is definitely cleaner to look at, but when you're labeling from grid view, masonry layout is useful so that you're able to take the entire image into careful consideration. To label in grid view, you first need to select the input you want to label. You can select an input either by clicking on the check mark on the bottom left-hand corner of your thumbnail, or by holding down the Command key on Apple keyboards or the Windows key on Microsoft keyboards, and then clicking anywhere in that thumbnail. Then, select the Label button on the bottom menu that has popped up. From here, select the concept you want, then click the Label Inputs with Selected Concepts button. You'll see confirmation in the right-hand corner that your input has been labeled. Then we click the X button here to clear our selection. If you wish to select more than one input in a row, select the first input while holding down the Command key, then select the last input of your choice while holding down Shift and Command. You can also unselect or reselect as many inputs as you want to add or subtract to your selection. Just remember to either click on the check mark button in the bottom left-hand corner or hold down the Command key while selecting these inputs. The other way to label an input is through the Image Details page, which you can get to by clicking on an input. There are 2 sections on the left side of this page that allow you to add a concept: the Annotations section and the Model Predictions section. Simply click on the section heading to expand it. In either one of these sections, select your desired concept from the drop-down and the input will be labeled. To exit out of image details view, back to the grid view, simply click the X in the top left-hand corner. Now we can explore the various search options available in Explorer. These search options can help you find large swaths of visually or thematically similar images that you can label or otherwise curate as desired. You can see what kind of searches are available by clicking in the search bar on the top of your page. It'll display a drop-down that informs you that you can search by base workflow, custom concept names, a thumbnail on your clipboard, an image URL, or metadata, geolocation data, or annotation status if any of those options are applicable to your data. Custom concept search will only be available once we've labeled a decent amount of data and trained our first version of the model. So we'll return to that search. First, we'll cover the base workflow search. This is directly tied to whatever base workflow you chose when creating your app. Since we chose the general model, we can search using any of the concepts using that model. If you remember back to the first session, I mentioned that the general model is trained on over 9,000 concepts. There's no way that anyone can remember that many concepts at the same time, so the best way to approach it is to think of a keyword that describes a visual signal that you're looking for and then begin to type it into the search bar to see if that concept exists in that model. Let's try using the base workflow search to surface a lot of winter-focused imagery for labeling. So we need to think about what kinds of visual signals are strongest for the season of winter. Things that immediately come to mind are snow and ice, so let's see what the search brings back for the word snow. As we begin to type in the word snow, we can see that there is indeed a concept that we can search by. Right here, snow. We can also see other concepts containing the word snow. There's a lot of them. We'll search by the concept snow by clicking on it and see what the results bring us. As you can see, it has returned a lot of results of images that have snow in them. From here, we can select as many inputs as we want to label them as winter. Be careful to scrutinize each image before committing to label it, because the search results returns images that look like snow, but may not actually be snow. Aha, so here we can see an example of an image that looks like it might be snow, but if we click on it to get a closer look in the image details view, we can determine that it's actually an image of white sands. We can deduce this because there's little tufts of grass and unique texture to the sand that doesn't quite look like snow. So we won't label that as winter. We'll end our selection there and label these inputs. Using the base workflow search with the general model can surface all kinds of subject matter, themes, visual cues in your data. You can use this over and over with many different search terms to surface as much of your data as you want and label it however you wish to. The next search we'll try is an image data search, which can be done either by image URL or copy-pasting an image directly into the search bar. We'll use this search to help us surface some inputs to start labeling the spring concept. So let's take a moment to think about a visual that is unique to the season of spring. In my part of the world, New York City, one of the first signs of spring is the crocus flower starting to emerge. So in another tab, let's open Google Image Search and search for an image of a crocus. So I pick an image that I'd like to use as my search query, and then right-click it to copy its image address. Then I can paste that image URL in the search bar. As long as that image URL ends in an image file designation like JPEG or PNG, it will perform a search based on your query image. It looks like our search results are pretty great. I think that we've successfully surfaced quite a few images that are similar to our search query image and contain crocuses. So now we can select as many as fit our criteria and then label them with spring. I'm just going to go ahead and label all of our crocuses and even some of our other flowers here too, because they also fit our criteria. We can continue to select the other floral images that we surfaced along with the search results because they adhere to our ground truth. You can do the same exact kind of search with an image thumbnail from your clipboard rather than an image URL. So if I had an image of a crocus on my local computer, I could copy it and paste it into the search bar here, and it would search just the same way as we just did. The final form of search we'll cover is visual search. It's not mentioned in the search bar because you perform visual search in a different way. Whenever you hover your mouse over an image thumbnail in grid view, you'll notice that a magnifying glass icon appears in the bottom right-hand corner. Clicking on this icon will perform a visual search over all of the images in your app. So say we wanted to start labeling our data for the concept autumn, and we wanted to start with all of the images of fallen leaves because it fits our autumn criteria perfectly. I would click on the magnifying glass icon of the image of this person's feet standing amongst a bunch of crispy fallen leaves. The search results that come back to us are displayed in the order of most similar to the query image and then descending from there. The search coincidentally also surfaced a duplicate image, which we'll want to delete. To delete an input from an app, simply select that image and then click on the trash can icon button on the far right-hand side of the menu at the bottom to delete that input. So now I can select as many of the images as I'd like to based on my ground truth and label them with autumn. Once you've labeled around 50 to 100 inputs for each of your model concepts, you'll be ready to train an initial model, which will allow you to finally use custom concept search. This search relies on data that you've labeled and trained into your model. It will surface results based on what the model has learned so far about the worldview of each of those concepts. In the next session, we'll be going over how to train a model and take a look at performance metrics. We'll also cover some of the bits that we promised to return to, like custom concept search, and the modal for adding concepts to inputs as you upload them in data mode.